No one expected the driver to kiss the CEO, least of all her parents standing just a few feet away. The ballroom of the luxury hotel had fallen silent as Eleanor Hartley, a young billionaire CEO, stepped out of the car. Cameras flashed, her parents watched proudly, and dozens of executives waited inside for the company's biggest charity gala. Behind the wheel sat Daniel Reyes, a quiet single dad who had been driving for the company for only 3 months. He opened the door for Eleanor, as he always did. But tonight was different. Eleanor looked nervous, her usually confident posture slightly shaken. Daniel noticed the small tremble in her hands. For weeks, he had seen the pressure she carried, board meetings, investors, the expectations of a powerful family. As she stepped out, Eleanor suddenly froze. Her parents approached with stiff smiles, already discussing business deals and appearances. The tension in the air was heavy. Daniel hesitated for only a second. Then he gently touched Eleanor's hand, leaned forward, and kissed her softly on the cheek. Gasps echoed across the entrance. Her parents stared in shock. The photographers stopped clicking. Security guards took a step forward. For a moment, everyone thought Daniel had just destroyed his job and his future. But Eleanor didn't pull away. Instead, something unexpected happened. Her tense expression melted into a small, genuine smile, the first one anyone had seen from her all evening. And when she turned to face her stunned parents, she said something that would leave the entire room speechless. "Mom! Dad, this is the man who reminded me what kindness actually looks like." And in that moment, no one yet realized Daniel's simple act of compassion was about to change all of their lives. The silence outside the ballroom grew heavier. Eleanor's parents, Richard and Margaret Hartley, stood frozen, their expressions caught between confusion and outrage. For them, reputation was everything. Their daughter was the face of a billion-dollar company, yet a driver had just kissed her in front of cameras. Richard stepped forward, his voice low but sharp. "Eleanor, what exactly is going on here?" Daniel immediately stepped back, his face pale. He already knew he had crossed the line. A driver didn't touch the CEO, especially not like that. "I'm sorry, Miss Hartley," he said quietly. "That was inappropriate. I'll leave." He turned, ready to walk away, and most likely lose the only job that allowed him to support his 7-year-old daughter. But Eleanor reached for his arm. "Daniel, wait." Her parents exchanged stunned glances. For months, Eleanor had been living inside a perfectly polished cage. Board meetings, interviews, expectations, endless pressure. Everyone treated her like a symbol of power. But Daniel never had. 3 weeks earlier, during a late-night drive home after a brutal meeting, he had noticed she hadn't eaten all day. Instead of saying anything, he quietly stopped at a small diner and brought her soup. "Even CEOs need dinner," he had said with a shy smile. Another night, when she looked exhausted, he told her stories about his daughter, Sophia, how she believed kindness was the most powerful thing in the world. Daniel never asked for anything. Never tried to impress her. He simply treated her like a human being. Eleanor looked at her parents and said softly, "This man didn't kiss a CEO tonight." She paused. "He kissed a person who needed reassurance." And suddenly the whispers from the crowd began to spread. Because people were starting to realize something. This wasn't a scandal. It was a moment of pure humanity. The cameras slowly started flashing again, but now the atmosphere had changed. Instead of scandal, curiosity filled the air. Margaret Hartley folded her arms, studying Daniel carefully. He didn't look like the kind of man who would cause trouble. His suit was simple, slightly worn, and his eyes carried the quiet exhaustion of someone who had worked very hard in life. "Daniel, is it?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," he replied respectfully. "And you thought kissing my daughter in front of half the city was appropriate?" Daniel lowered his gaze. "No, ma'am. I just saw she was overwhelmed. I shouldn't have done it." Eleanor shook her head gently. "You shouldn't apologize for kindness." Her father frowned. "Kindness doesn't usually involve physical affection from employees." For a moment, Eleanor remained silent. Then she said something no one expected. "Dad, when was the last time someone comforted you without expecting something in return?" Richard didn't answer. Because the truth was uncomfortable. In their world, every handshake came with an agenda. Every smile had a price. But Daniel wasn't part of that world. At that moment, a small voice suddenly spoke from the back of the car. "Daddy?" Everyone turned. A little girl with curly dark hair peeked out nervously from the back seat. She held a small drawing in her hands. Daniel looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry. I had to bring my daughter tonight. Her babysitter canceled." The girl stepped closer and handed the drawing to Eleanor. It showed a stick-figure woman wearing a crown and a big smile. "That's you," the girl said proudly. "Daddy said you help lots of people?" Eleanor's eyes softened as she looked at the drawing. And in that quiet moment, something inside the powerful Hartley family began to shift. Because sometimes the smallest voices reveal the biggest truths. Eleanor knelt down to the little girl's level. "What's your name?" she asked gently. "Sophia," the girl replied with a shy smile. Eleanor looked at the drawing again. The stick-figure crown made her laugh softly. "You think I'm a queen?" Sophia nodded seriously. "Daddy says you help people who don't have homes?" Eleanor glanced at Daniel, surprised. "You told her about the foundation?" Daniel rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "She asked why I work late sometimes. I told her you're trying to build shelters." Margaret and Richard exchanged a quiet look. They had funded the charity gala tonight, but to them it had always been more about image than impact. Yet here was a little girl who believed in it completely. Sophia suddenly looked at Eleanor with innocent curiosity. "Are you sad?" The question caught everyone off guard. Eleanor hesitated before answering. "Sometimes," she admitted softly. Sophia thought for a moment, then wrapped her tiny arms around Eleanor's neck. "It's okay. Daddy says hugs fix a lot of things." The crowd watching nearby grew quiet again. Richard cleared his throat, suddenly uncomfortable. For years he had raised Eleanor to be strong, composed, and untouchable. Emotions were seen as weakness. But watching his daughter laugh with a child in the middle of a formal gala entrance, something felt different. Human. Margaret finally spoke, her voice softer than before. "Daniel, how long have you been raising Sophia alone?" 5 years, he answered quietly. "And you still found time to care about my daughter's feelings?" Daniel shrugged. "Everyone deserves someone to notice when they're struggling." Those simple words hung in the air. And for the first time that evening, Eleanor's father wasn't thinking about reputation or business deals. He was thinking about something far more important. Character. The ballroom doors slowly opened behind them, revealing hundreds of guests waiting inside. But no one rushed in. Something meaningful was happening outside, and everyone could feel it. Richard Hartley stepped toward Daniel. For a long moment, the billionaire businessman simply studied the man who had just changed the mood of the entire evening. "Daniel," he finally said, "how long have you been driving for our company?" 3 months, sir." "And before that?" "Construction, until the company shut down." Richard nodded slowly. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "in my world people spend millions trying to build trust and respect." He glanced at Eleanor, who was smiling while Sophia showed her another drawing. "And you managed to earn both with nothing but kindness." Daniel looked confused. "I didn't do anything special." "That," Richard replied quietly, "is exactly why it matters." Margaret stepped closer, her earlier tension completely gone. "You reminded our daughter, and apparently us, what humanity looks like." The photographers captured the moment as Richard did something no one expected. He extended his hand. "Daniel Reyes, welcome to the Hartley Foundation." Daniel blinked in surprise. "Sir? We need people who understand compassion," Richard explained. "Not just people who talk about it." Eleanor looked up, her eyes bright. "Dad, are you serious?" He smiled slightly. "For once, yes." Sophia tugged Daniel's sleeve. "Daddy, does that mean we're not in trouble?" Daniel laughed softly, relief washing over him. No, sweetheart. Eleanor stood and looked at the crowd watching them. Tonight's gala is about changing lives, she announced. Then she glanced at Daniel and Sophia. And it already has. Because sometimes the most powerful act in the room isn't wealth, status, or influence. Sometimes, it's simply kindness,